right? No, you're gonna give them a template. Very simple, easy way to do this, and what we told them to do, load their calls into transcription from something like Descript and drop it into ChatGPT and turn it in. I didn't come up with that, they did, but it worked. Okay? Now, future pacing this for you guys, just to give you a thought on how powerful this actually is. Say 2 years from today, or 2 years from now, you have promoted successfully, let's say 30 setters to closers. You now have 30 of your best case studies who have left behind their best 10 calls and who have also left behind their best script that they used to actually go from setting to closing. You don't have to create the material anymore. It's being created as you're promoting your team. And if you want to build fast, this is how you do it. Questions? Some people are looking at me like, I get this. Some people are looking at me like, I don't get this. Yes?
So I'm in the solar industry, and as of this year, a lot of things have shifted. It's become a lot more popular in the industry to actually not have setters transitioning into closers because we still run a set close model. I just wondering, because we decided to pay them more because we were having a workload that we were making plenty of money, and they were like, I need to do that.
Yeah.
And then a lot were transitioning, and then we ran out of setters and the hiring there would stop. So my question is kind of, if there's not as much incentive to become closers, but we have like leadership roles for setters, could that serve as that purpose as well? As long as there's still like the next run to go up?
So my brain goes immediately to how do we get the setters to setting their own set team, to creating their own set team, right? You need people to develop people and build more and bring more people into your teams, right? I think you want to go from 2 to 5 teams, correct? Right. So you're not pushing people to become closers, you're pushing people to become basically captains of their own team. So same exact process. You're going to set them up with milestones. Once they hit their first milestones, then they're going to do X, right? How do you knock doors? How do you do this? What do you do, etc.? Have them fill it out, right? Once you complete this, you are now eligible to bring in people underneath you. And that's their next objective, okay? So they go from, whatever you want to call it to, let's call it senior leadership to whatever, right? And those are the milestones that they're hitting. So they're in the same role, but they're progressing. And you're teaching them how to do what I'm teaching you guys right now, which is basically how to start it, basically go from doing it to owning the team. And for you, if you don't want people leaving who are producing a shitload of money, right, you need to get them in roles where they're developing other people underneath them, or you're going to have problems because they're going to leave. And if you don't have a structure, either A, they're going to take a lot of people with them, or B, you're just not going to be able to develop people and you're going to be churning like crazy and your entire job is going to be recruiting, which sucks. Not fun, okay? So, setter goes to closer, closer becomes closer, awesome, everybody's happy, cool. Same thing here, same exact thing, okay? They're going from closer to sales lead, right? The difference between this here is the promotion from the pool, like you guys were talking about, where we were talking about, okay, who should I bring up? Who is, right, the next sales lead? Very simple. When we got to the point where we needed a new sales lead, we would have the team vote out of the candidates. It was easy. If we had 8 people and we needed to bring on another pod because pod 1 was killing it, pod 2 is about to get started, it's very simple. We have 2 candidates, team vote. That was it.
Everyone on the team votes?
Yep.
Just the sales or leadership?
Everybody. Yep. Anybody that's involved in the department.
What if the team picks someone you think is an underdog? You just run with it, see where it goes?
Explain.
Well, let's say, there's this guy that they pick that you personally wouldn't pick.
Okay.
You just let him run with it? Let that guy give him a shot, or?
They're eligible for promotion, right?
Yeah, so you would never jump in and change the decision for him, say, what I'm asking. Very rarely.
So, I think your team will usually make the right decision if the culture is good.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, Chris, I'm going to tell your story real quick because it's a very good one to tell. So I don't know how many people we had at this point, probably 30, maybe 25. We had 1 or 2 sales leads. We were bringing up basically the second one, or they were competing for the spot. Chris was never the number one guy. But the number one guy on that team was a dick. He was a dick. And ultimately, Chris got promoted to sales lead. Why? Because he was always up there, right? He was always in that like 3rd spot, 4th spot. Like he was always up there, but the entire team respected him. And if you have somebody who is a balls to the wall, go kill him closer, team's probably not going to want that guy up top. They're going to want who's been there, who's basically taken the time to teach them. The reason he got it is because he actually enjoyed working with people. And when you have a team that's building, like, they're going to want that person on top. Does that make sense? So ultimately, like, leaving it up to the team and you having a vote in that say is usually enough. If you really feel like they made the wrong decision, then, you know, you're going to have to make the gut call of what you want to do. However, if you do take a team vote and you veto it, put somebody else in that's the wrong decision, not a good idea. Not a good idea at all. Okay? Perfect. So questions around this process, because we're going to go into it in depth in a little bit. Cool. All right. This next piece. All right, so setting up promotion process, you're going to start with new hire to setter, setter to closer. I'm going to give you the exact format how to do it. Talk about that in a second. All right, recruiting process. So in phase 1, right, this is a high level. This is essentially what we're going to build tomorrow, which you guys will start to see. Bridger, this is what we are starting to put in place for you guys. So as you guys get going, you start to get your testimonials, you start to get your case studies, people are starting to figure out that they want to become a part of this team. You need a process to actually handle it. And you need a process that doesn't take a million hours of your time. You definitely don't want to go the traditional route where you're one-on-one interviewing literally everybody that comes through the door. It's not going to work. You're small, startup, small team, like you don't have 5, 6, 7, 8 hours every single week to do recruiting. So, got new applications coming in. They're going to get disqualified or set into needs review, or they're going to get automatically qualified. We're going to go over this in depth in a little bit. However, if they are qualified, they're going to get invited to a webinar. That webinar is going to be a group screening call. That group screening call is going to be essentially a group interview. Okay? We're going to go into this in depth. However, one of the biggest challenges that I had with my first couple teams was basically interviewing people one-on-one and hiring one-on-one. I'd bring one person in at a time. I'd take hours upon hours upon hours to train them. They'd have a million questions. They were isolated from the rest of the team. It took forever. They'd end up leaving 3 months later because they weren't a good fit. It was constantly a problem. So I was constantly trying to hire, constantly recruiting, and constantly training, and it didn't work out. So what I did is I started switching it to a group strategy where essentially I would take all 50 qualified candidates, throw them into one group call. I would tell them exactly what I'm looking for. So I'd go over the compensation sheet, I'd go over the KPIs, I'd go over my growth roadmap, I'd go over exactly what we're looking for, exactly what we're trying to do in the next 6 months. Basically ask them if this isn't for you, politely please jump off the call. I would take all of those candidates, I'd drop them the next basically application on the call, say if you're interested and this is what you'd like to do, please fill out this next app. The next app is a video with a script and a personality test. Guess what? I just screened 50 qualified candidates in 1 hour. And guess what? They're in a group. What does that mean? There's demand for this role. They're going to have to show out and outshine everybody else. And you're going to pull all the best people right at the top. Right away. Okay? Now, if you don't have a system for this, you're going to be screwed. Okay? So, once we get those apps in, obviously, videos get screened, and they get invited back to round number 2, where it's a little bit more intimate, it's a smaller group, and you're explaining the process that they're about to go into, which is the first 30-day challenge that we just talked about. It's the new hire 30-day challenge that we're going to create today, and this is how they actually become part of the team. You hire them as a group. You're training a group. You got 10 people coming in, guess what? You're probably going to keep 4, maybe 5 that are actually going to work out. You want the best? Bring them in as a group. You want to spend a lot of time, have a lot of difficulty doing this? Bring one person on at a time. I know you guys are probably thinking, well, I've only got one person, or I've got 2 or 3 people, or I've got this. Doesn't matter. Bring in 3, 4, 5 setters. Let them compete. Who's going to be the best? We're taking the top 3 people. I need 3 slots. There's 6 of you. It works. It does. It works well. So, more about this in a little bit.